Alright, so this is going to be absolutely a crazy adventure when it comes to racing wheels in general. And it's absolutely one of those big and huge rabbit holes where we can deep dive into and finding all kinds of different versions. We have all kind of different platforms where we can use certain like wheels for, but I just particularly wanted to look into the Nintendo Switch today. I want to welcome you to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in. So in this video we're going to take a close look at the Hori Mario Kart official licensed racing wheel. We're going to see what are actually going to get and how basic is it. I'm just going to be saying already, this is going to be a wheel going back all the way to the 90s, where we didn't have any, let's say, cool fancy things like force feedback or rumble function. This is just super basic. It's just very dirty cheap. But is it actually fun to play with a racing wheel from Hori? And that's the question that I wanted to answer today. Then of course we do have a lot of cool fun novelties inside the machine itself, and yeah, we can play this thing on different kind of ways. It's also going to be quite fancy with programmable keys. That is a feature not every single wheel has. So I think it's pretty cool that they give you the option to basically map buttons to a certain, let's say, quick button on the middle of the wheel. But let's start unboxing and let's see what we're going to get in the inside. So first of all, this is not a force feedback wheel, so we don't need an extra power supply whatsoever. Also no batteries for rumble function we had back in the days. No, this is just pure old school racing with a spring in the inside. Later on I will show you what I mean. So basically we do have two components, the racing wheel itself, and then we're having the absolutely tiny but cool looking pedals. But how is the overall quality in general? This thing is very lightweighted. It is like absolutely plastic fantastic, but not the chemical stuff that we have seen from China itself. So the overall quality is okay, to be honest. It's just a very tiny and also very cool wheel to see. I really love the way they made the colors of the Mario theme, implemented it in a Hori tiny wheel. This is old school. It is 180 degrees and it has just a basic, let's say, nice grip to it. There is nothing, let's say, deluxe out of it. I find it very fascinating to see how they can actually make this for the money, because you're not paying a lot for this. Take consideration also, this is a basic wheel, so I think if you want to get into the basic stuff like called racing, this is just a fun thing. The D-pad feels quite nice, to be honest. I think I can even play some Street Fighter with it, but all the other buttons are like clickish buttons. A little bit of a, let's say, in cheap feel to it. And of course the middle one to assign the yellow buttons. I think it's very cool that we have the option for that. We do have shifters, they're going to be convenient, something I wanted to check out with some games if it's actually going to be any good. Then in the middle of the wheel we have the option to switch between the D-pad or the joystick, and yeah, this is going to be convenient if you need to navigate through the menu or in certain game needs to have like the joystick, so we can switch between that. At the bottom we're going to get some old school suction knobs. Of course it's not going to be working like this, so let's give you an example how good it actually works when it comes to putting it on the table. And it gives an absolutely great suction because this thing is very well placed with the 4 suction knobs. So it's an easy solution, but it works quite great. I was quite surprised to see that we did have some pedals coming with this thing. Yeah, there is nothing special about it, because what you're going to get are just basic 2 pedals. There is no resistance whatsoever for the brake. So yeah, this is as basic it can be. It's fun that it has it because it makes it way more like very fun to play racing games with some gas and brake pedal. Both cables are long enough if you want to place the pedals under the table, of course, and you just plug it in with this old school phone cable connection. So you need to plug in the device itself in your Nintendo Switch docking. I think it's way easier, of course, because if you're going to mess around with cables, it's going to be messy. So if you don't have any connections and the joystick, or in this case the racing wheel, doesn't work, what you need to do is go into the settings. In settings, and this is one of the 2 solutions we're having, this is something you should consider if you're going to plug in any, let's say, USB device, because this can be so much easier. If you have any problems, go to controllers and sensors and implement the Pro Controller feature. When you're going to turn it on, a lot of, let's say, input you're going to get with different controllers may work now that it didn't work before. If this doesn't solve your solution, what you can do is like looking into the switch on your racing wheel itself. For me, for this particular wheel, that was the solution. I've been messing with both of them, and that's the way how you need to, let's say, activate your wheel. But now it recognizes the right joystick and we can navigate through the menu. We're going to test the wheel with some different games I've picked up. The reason why, because this game is maybe designed for Mario Kart Deluxe, but I just wanted to see how does it work when it comes to different games. Does it all work that great? So let's start with some Super Mario Kart and let's see what we're actually going to get and how does the game play. I can tell you my first impression is that this game is a lot of fun to playing with a wheel. I personally choose it either over playing with a controller. You know, racing wheels are such a different way to play, but also the way how you just actually like interact. The dead zone, I really don't notice it at all, and I find the racing game is very direct on my racing wheel, so I don't have like input lag thing going on here. Absolutely great, and I just really love what's going on here. When it comes to Mario Kart, there are different ways to play. You can use the pedals, but you can use the buttons at the front. It's just how you personally prefer to play the game. I don't really like playing it when it comes to, let's say, the buttons on the racing wheels. It feels so unnatural. That's the reason I love to have at least a pedal. But here you can see the left pedal has been set to brake and reverse and the right one for acceleration. Everything out of the box, plug and play, works as a charm. WRC8 is a game I picked up just to check out how does that actually work. The first thing I already noticed is an absolutely huge dead zone, and this game is, in my opinion, just unplayable if you just want to plug in this racing wheel and you just want to mess around with it. Out of the box, this doesn't really work that great. This is the stuff that I basically like had the problems with in the 90s, where they're claiming racing wheels working great, but you need to mess around with it. It's not a big of a deal. For example, if you want to put accelerate on A, it also will be implemented on the pedal itself. But the weird thing is, when I was trying to do this, trying to put everything in the right position, that makes the game even unplayable. By pressing acceleration, it didn't do anything. And what's kind of weird, to be honest, I never could figure out what is going on. The only thing when I'm using the original preset, then I can use the acceleration button on the racing wheel, but the pedals, I never got these things to work at all.
And right 4 tightens into left 3 short, 50 over crest. Left 3 short, 50. Left 3 short into right 3 short, 20.
Crash Team Racing, another Mario Kart clone in my opinion, but it worked pretty damn well. The weird thing is, out of the box, I just wanted to see what happens. And yeah, the weird thing is, they basically reversed the acceleration with the left from normally having right. It's kind of weird. Doesn't matter, but out of the box, this game seems to be working just fine, so that's very nice. The Sonic Racing game was also a good success when it comes to the controlling of the wheel. Unfortunate, I couldn't get my pedals to set up. You have some preset that we can choose, but none of them has the option to get myself the acceleration to A or the pedals in that case. But to my surprise, Reckless was working very nice. Unfortunate, the other part is that we did have some messing around with the pedals and couldn't get those things to work either. That is like a general problem I've noticed, so for me it's going to be a hit or miss when it comes to particular games. Reckless is a very cool game. When it comes to the dead zone, everything works just fine. You need to get used to the controls of the game itself, but when you're going to get the hang of it, it's still playable, even if you don't have any force feedback or rumble function giving you any feedback from the game itself. The conclusion is quite simple. It's a super basic racing wheel going back to the 90s, no force feedback and no rumble. Or I can still remember one of my Mad Cats had rumble back in the day, when you need to put some 2 AA batteries in. Nevertheless, it's a great racing wheel if you just want to mess around with it. It's a different experience, it's absolutely a fun experience, but there was also like different ways to play when it comes to racing wheels. Is it the best way? I think if you want to get into racing wheels, you just want to find something fun for not a lot of money, I think it's a funny, cool thing to do. But you are very limited. I think it's not only of the racing wheel itself, but also the Switch and the games you can play with it. Let me know in the comments, what do you think of racing wheels? Would you consider picking up something like this, or are you going to spend a little bit more money and getting something that has more options? Thank you for watching, and it would be great to see you in the next video.